I give full backing to the Israeli police and the security forces in their action to control law and order. We will not accept any provocations to the police or the security forces in these places or anywhere else.
All right, joining me now from New York is Omar Rahman. He's a fellow over at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs. Omar, good to speak to you. You heard there the statement made by Prime Minister Netanyahu. I'm leaving aside the whole concept of proportional retaliation, but do you feel that his words tell you that there is a disregard to the idea of ensuring the protection and safety of civilian population, as well as holding the perpetrators to account? I mean, that's just a concept that is, to me, non-existent.
Certainly, I think Netanyahu has a long track record leading his country and its military forces, who have perpetrated massacres against the Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank over a number of years. And so I think what he's doing now and what this government has done since taking office in December is really unleash its military as well as a civilian population in the occupied territories, the settler population that has just been absolutely violent, rampaging against Palestinians, vulnerable Palestinians in villages like we've seen over the past few days.
Omar, we all know that this year has been marked by the Israeli military's escalation in the occupied West Bank, particularly in Jenin. Talk to us a little bit more in detail in terms of what is behind the rise in violence, you think?
Well, it hasn't been just the past 2 weeks. It's really this period of escalation, if we can call it that, has been running for 2 years now, since we saw kind of an explosion and outpouring of Palestinian resistance in April, May 2021. And since then, Israel has kind of run a campaign, especially in the West Bank, of cracking down, going into especially Jenin, because it's kind of a hotbed of resistance activity, Nablus as well, and trying to crush all networks of resistance, all pockets of resistance. And so it's been going into those villages, those cities, for 2 years now on almost a daily basis, and leaving dead bodies almost on a daily basis. And so that's kind of what has generated a very tense period in which there are retaliatory actions as well from the Palestinians. There's attacks on Israeli settlers and others. And so you're getting this back and forth, but we're in a period where this year alone, in the past 6 months, more Palestinians have died in this type of period in any year on record since the Second Intifada. And last year was also the most deadly year in the West Bank on record since the Second Intifada, and this year is much worse.
Yeah. It seems to me that as long as this current right-wing government of Netanyahu is in place, and you have sort of controversial names like Itamar Ben-Gvir, I mean, there's not going to be any meaningful return. I mean, forget the word meaningful. I mean, and this devastating cycle of violence is going to continue and perhaps even get worse.
Yeah, I think that's an unfortunate reality unless maybe the international community, which I hold no hope for, kind of steps in to quash the situation or to bring some kind of semblance of stability. But at the end of the day, I mean, underlying everything is the fact that the occupation is unending. And what you're talking about here is absolutely what you're pointing to is absolutely correct. This government in particular, I mean, it's been happening for a long time, but this government in particular is dead set on annexing the West Bank. And it's doing all it can. It's passed legislation recently handing over new powers to Ben-Gvir and to Bezalel Smotrich, who's another far-right political leader within Israel, and extending the kind of powers, civilian powers, over the occupation of the West Bank in a form of de jure annexation. And so I don't see any step back or movement away from the kind of dangerous direction we're going. I mean, we're on a trajectory here that's very dark, in which you have kind of the consolidation of apartheid, and with that comes kind of endless resistance, and with that the kind of the intention by the Israelis to really crush and brutalize the Palestinians into submission.
Okay. Omar Rahman, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. Pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks for having me.